Does your ERG have a hipster, a hustler, and a hacker? Have you even heard of those terms before? Why is it that impactful ERGs, in my view anyway, seem to have a mix of certain skills? That's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. So if it's a term that you've never heard of, you want to know what it is, you want to know what the critical skills mix that I think are critical for ERGs to actually make an impact, then you're in the right place. Folks, this is ERG Strategy, the channel that gives you tools, tips, techniques and advice to build effective, engaged employee resource groups that make a difference in your organisation and in the world at large. New videos every week, every Tuesday, and I go live on Friday mornings on LinkedIn at 8:30 UK time with a guest. And I also have a Substack newsletter called ERG Debrief, which you can find below. So folks, these terms are the hipster, hacker, hustler, and there is a fourth that I'm going to come on to. But these three terms, have you ever heard of them? So here's the thing. Back in the day when I was like really kind of like very much in the startup world, I used to, for those that don't know, so I'm an accountant by background, I used to be a business mentor to young startups. This is going back to like 2007, 2008, maybe even before that. I used to mentor young businesses, basically, often creative businesses. And so I really got into the world of like sort of startups. I used to have a lot of people coming to me for advice with business plans and things like that, which is why if you've ever come across my other YouTube channel, you've probably seen like a lot of like other sort of like different types of content. But that's why, right? So I used to dabble in like the startup world. And back in 2012, there's a guy called Rei Inamoto, who was the Chief Creative Officer, I think that's his title, at a company called AKQA, which is spelled AKQA. And he was at the very trendy annual festival, I think it's annual, called South by Southwest, SXSW. And he was talking about these roles and how, in his view, every startup needed to have a hipster, a hustler and a hacker. Now, let me just explain what those mean and what I think it means for ERGs in terms of getting things done. So we're talking about startups. This is like organizations that, I mean, it's typically just an idea, right? And two people and maybe a kitchen table or something, right? So these are what he was talking about as roles. And some, one person can do more than one of these roles. But what he was talking about, first of all, was the hipster. So this is like the creative design sort of person that comes up with really cool ideas, or makes the product quite cool, makes the design or the service quite cool and quite trendy, because they're hip, right? And they're kind of connected to what people are interested in. So that is the hipster. Then you've got the hustler, who is the person that makes the deals, can sell the thing, can like influence, maybe can like, be really scrappy and get resources or whatever, right? So they're going to hustle. They're the hustler. And then you've got the hacker, which typically is the person that can actually get the thing done, like can make the product. If it's, say, technology, and a lot of this was around the time of like tech startups. So the hacker typically was the coder, like the technical person that will actually build the thing. So that was your three. And so there was this, it's going around for a while. If you were to Google it, you'd find it. They were like, oh yeah, every startup needs to have a hipster, a hacker, and a hustler, right? So here's the thing. At the ERG Leader Summit, one of the case studies, and if you go back, I've done videos where I go through the three case studies that were shared on the day. But one of the case studies, it really stood out for two reasons. First of all, it was the case study that was the most business oriented. The individuals that were presenting were talking about return on investment. Like we brought this idea to the organization as a business case. We said, this is the return on investment. This is why we need to do it, right? And it was Indeed Flex talking about their sponsorship of Pride Month, right? But it was really interesting. It was a very, very commercially focused project in terms of how it was done, how it was packaged up, how it was sold into the organization, right, by the network. And it just, as I was thinking about it afterwards, and I was talking to somebody, in fact, I was talking to a group of inclusion leads, I was on a call and I was telling them about some of my highlights from the summit, and I was talking about this, and that's where I came up with this. I said it reminded me of the hipster hacker hustler, because when I looked at the individuals that were very close to and pivotal to making that thing happen. Now, don't get me wrong, it would have been a massive team effort, right? In terms of what they were doing, sponsoring a specific element of Pride. And if you want to know the details, you can go and watch that video. So there would have been a lot of people involved, but it was really interesting that the individuals that were presenting, first of all, there was somebody that works in business development, sales, right? That's your hustler, right? Somebody that knows how to sell something. At the end of it, life is a sales pitch, right? Life is a sales pitch. We are selling all of the time. We are trying to influence people all of the time, right? So, so within that Indeed Flex team, they had somebody in business development, AKA, like sales and business growth. So to me, that was like, okay, that's the hustler. That's the person that thinks about this in terms of how do we make this a saleable idea for this organization, right? So think about that. I would say think about, start to think about that as a role within your committee. Then, you want somebody who is a hacker, somebody that can like get things done. I don't know. I don't want to characterize the individuals in that particular case as being one of the or the other. But what I will say is one of the co-chairs that is there, their role is in supporting people. Because they've got a role in development, so development as in like almost like a training sort of like role. And to me, that links very much into the angle that they were taking with their Pride sponsorship, which was around sponsoring the volunteers and really making it appeal to both colleagues internally and also the wider community. So for me, that person maybe sort of straddles a little bit of like the hacker, but also potentially a bit of the hipster, because based on what I know of that individual, they are very creative, very much around how do we make this thing fun and engaging for people to get involved with, etc. So I think they were probably doing a little bit of both. And then the third individual that was presenting, and also maybe she was doing a little bit of the hacker role in terms of getting things done. But I want to introduce a fourth H. And Claude helped me figure out, help me figure out a H that would just go with this, so that I had 4 H's and not just 3 H's and then an odd word. But the third person that was presenting around this case study was a project manager. So somebody that is good at getting things done. Now that fits a little bit with the hacker, but I think it goes beyond that. I think it's somebody that can, line up resources, look at the schedule, make sure that everything is organised, maybe even getting into the detail as well. And so the fourth role that, and you can thank or blame Claude for this, is the herder. The herder. Now, here's the thing. What's really interesting, I speak to, obviously, as you can imagine, a lot of ERG co-chairs. There's a lot of project managers that get involved in ERGs. Project managers and or change managers and or program managers. It's all the same family, basically. There's a lot of those individuals that get involved with ERGs. And I think there's a combination of things. I think some of it is they are often quite good people, but obviously also they are good at getting things done. And it's that combination. Actually, do you know what? Maybe I should do a video in the insights colours, which if you know, disc, insights colours, right, of what makes a good ERG co-chair, because I definitely have a theory about it. Anyway, so that potentially is the fourth role. And so the thing to take away is not necessarily, the hipster, hacker, hustler, herder. You don't even have to use those terms. But here's the thing, depending on where you are in your journey as a network and what you need to do. But if you want to have more impact, if you're at that stage where you've maybe been doing a lot of events, especially if you've watched the last video, you've been doing a lot of events, and you're now trying to do things that are more impactful, both for the colleagues in the community that are members, so the members of your network who are potentially not as engaged at the moment, because really they want to be involved in things that are more impactful and maybe things that are going to benefit their careers. If you want to be doing things that are more impactful, You've got to have somebody within your committee that can connect what your network does to the strategic and business objectives of the organisation. Now, I typically say that if you don't naturally have that in your committee, it can come from the sponsor, can definitely come from the sponsor. You can ask them, you know, what do we need to do to be more connected to the strategy? So the sponsor almost can help to play like one of these roles. However, what I would definitely consider, depending on what that gap is, but definitely consider having somebody that's either got a very, very commercial role, so maybe they are in sales or they're in business development or they are in commercial, you know, if you have a commercial role, or an operational role that can kind of connect what the network is doing to the objectives of the organisations and really sell it internally and get that business case approved, right? To me, that is the hustler. It's the person that can be like, you know, these are the amazing skills of the ERG and this is how it can link to these particular business objectives. So that's like your hustler person. So looking out for people with those skills to come in and join the ERG, because they will bring that lens of what is the organisation trying to achieve commercially, and actually how can the ERG support that, right? So that's the first role that I want you to look at. Project management is like, it's a must. I mean, it's something I sometimes talk about building what I call a power team. So particularly if you're in a very, very small organisation and you've literally got 3 or 4 people trying to do everything for the network, that's a very small number. I talk about building a power team. So like, you know, becoming really good friends with people in various parts of the organisation that can help you. So becoming really good friends with the comms team and the events people and with somebody in IT and potentially with some project managers. So if there is some project resource in the organisation somewhere, becoming really good friends with them and or getting them on your committee so that things get done, you will find that really beneficial, having that skill set on your committee. The other one that I'm going to talk about in terms of the hacker, so in terms of the getting things done, it depends on, as I said in my last video, it depends on like what activities you're focusing on in terms of what needs doing. And so I would say if, for example, you've got a year coming up where you're wanting to focus on quite a lot of policy, as in like HR policy, people policy, you know, it could be things like paid leave policies or, you know, other sort of like types of benefits and things like that, then maybe you do actually need somebody from HR in your committee. Right, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So getting somebody from HR in your committee, potentially even somebody from, for example, the benefits team or the, you know, the compensation and benefits or the rewards team or the employee relations team, whatever it be. But getting somebody like that involved at a committee level might actually help you getting these things done, because some of it becomes kind of like their day job. And so actually they'll be given more capacity to get those things done. And again, you know, this came out in the case study that Indeed Flex did, because they got business case sign off, and then some of the activities were adjacent to some people's day jobs. They were given the time to complete tasks in their day jobs, right? That also came out loud and clear with another sponsor at the ERG Leader Summit. So if you watch one of the other cases, the co-op case as well, the sponsor who was the CTO was able to just like put resources on it, on you know, accessibility, because they've got the resources and they've got the responsibility for it. So thinking about what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then for that year, and then pulling committee members in who can get those things done because maybe they are adjacent to their day job, is a really, really smart way of doing things. And so that's it. That's how to think about the skills mix. So this is beyond like the standard roles and things like that, because I don't see no standard roles in like anybody's training that's talking about how you can be really strategic about the skills, etc., that you need. Yes, there is potentially a way of structuring individuals, but you know, I think the key thing really is getting the right skills in that can actually deliver the change. It's not just about giving, you know, 50 committee members various titles, and then nothing really gets done, and then it's all just like structure for the show, but things aren't getting done, right? You need to get the right skills in the room. So that's it. If this was useful, please give it a thumbs up. Please do share it with your co-chair and maybe your sponsor, maybe your inclusion lead, you know, just to like get them a level of awareness in terms of your thinking around the roles and maybe why you haven't gone with the standard roles. And so that's it. The hipster, the hustler, the hacker, and the herder. Hope you enjoyed that. New videos next week, and I'll see you for the LinkedIn Live this Friday morning at 8:30. Ciao.